Shlomo Kramer, an Israeli tech billionaire, drew strong criticism from free speech advocates after saying the U.S. needs to limit the First Amendment and control social media platforms.
Now, Kramer made the comments while discussing the risks of cyber warfare in an interview on CNBC. Let's take a look.
And I know it's difficult to hear, but it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it. And quickly before it's too late.
What do you mean?
I mean that we need to control the platforms, all the social platforms. We need to stack rank the authenticity of every person that expresses themselves online and take control over what they are saying based on that ranking.
The government
should
control the social media.
Yeah, should do that.
Now, Kramer went on to say that governments need to do more to educate people against lies and misinformation online, and said that without regulation, society will only become more polarized as the rise of AI makes it harder to separate truth from fiction. He also argues that governments need to develop cyber defense programs as the world heads toward what he says is its first, quote, cyber war. A longtime tech entrepreneur, Kramer co-founded the cybersecurity companies Checkpoint and Cato Networks, which he currently is the CEO for.
Kramer's comments made waves on social media, with prominent voices on both the right and left speaking out against him. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene said an Israeli cybersecurity billionaire demanding to take away Americans' guaranteed First Amendment free speech and President Trump threatening war and sending in troops to Iran is everything we voted against in 24. Trump voters spent the week threatening a tax revolt because they are so furious about the never-ending waste, fraud, and abuse of their hard-earned money going to foreigners and foreign wars. The focus should be on tax dollars here at home and defending our God-given freedoms and rights. And Young Turks host Anna Kasparian asked, why would a foreigner's views on our Constitution hold any weight at all? He is entitled to his view that the First Amendment is bad or needs fixing or blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter, don't care, not going to happen. So sorry, that one's set in stone. It would take two-thirds of the states, three-quarters of the states, and there's the AP Gov process for amending the Constitution, whatever it is. It's not going to happen. Misinformation, bad speech you don't like is protected by the First Amendment. If the platforms want to decide to get rid of anonymous speech or require verification or do whatever they're going to do, they can all do that at their discretion. They're private companies. They can experiment with different levels of moderation. I think more user-based curation and moderation is a good idea rather than top-down moderation. That's all fine. It has nothing to do with the government and won't. So, in Europe or Israel, maybe it's different, but in the U.S., not going to happen.
I will say I agree with the MAGA outrage here, specifically the point that there should be no foreign involvement in what we do with our First Amendment or any constitutional rights in our country, period. I was one of the people that do think that misinformation and disinformation is a problem, particularly, around the elections and around some of the use of AI in campaigns. They're like, this is obviously fake. Okay, well, we ask somebody's grandmother if they think it's fake. I think that we need to make sure we're differentiating.
I mean, misrepresenting someone, if the AI videos are so advanced that it's a video of
getting to that
point. Then that is already defamation or fraud. That is already illegal. It could be the case that we need new legislation or some kind of tweak to Section 230, the internet statute I talk about all the time, that has to do with regulating speech on the internet, to make clear that, like copyright or like child porn or like non-consensual pornographic images, it is not okay. You can't just post that at your own discretion. So that's a teensy little tweak we need to make.
That you're willing to make, okay.
There are, again, not literally all speech. The Supreme Court has recognized threats of imminent harm, threats of violence, etc. There is a small category of speech that is not permissible.
And I'm not sure how you feel about this, but I agree with most people that are in the mindset that Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, the leaders of those organizations have a responsibility to have misinformation moderated, and it's up to them to really try to make sure that they're doing that accurately and not through a lens. I know we looked at Elon Musk and how he transformed his chat bot and how he made it more, people could say, conservative leaning in its responses.
He did for a bit, and then he walked it back. Grok's doing fine these days.
Well, Grok had a lot of mishaps, so better late than never, I guess. But I think there's still some important and necessary things to do, and your responsibility as somebody who is running these platforms where people like you always like to point to the fact that this generation, the younger generations, even older generations are getting their news first and foremost from these social media platforms, even from YouTube. And so if that's the case, and we are excited about it because our show is there, it's important to not have incorrect information running rampant without any type of corrections, because people just take it as fact or law. I don't think that the American public is dumb. I just think some people don't have time to research every single topic and every single thing people say. I think humans make mistakes. And so I think there is a room for it to be corrected. And why not fact check in a way that like we fact check in articles and we have to go back.
It depends what you mean by correction. Because sometimes what people who are saying, I'm not accusing you of this, they mean misinformation, or they mean things that need fact checking. They're talking about an opinion they don't agree with. Like we have, people can reach vastly different conclusions or have strong, discordant, well-informed opinions that are miles apart on contentious subjects, right? That's different than saying, oh, this video is of Venezuelans protesting, and it's actually a video of Iranians protesting 10 years ago or something. That is the kind of thing on social media that does tend to get corrected by the safety measures that the companies have implemented. The community notes feature on X, usually there's a video, and if it's being portrayed as about something that it's not, usually there's a note on there that says this poster is wrong, this is actually from so-and-so and so-and-so. Also, you can ask Grok about it, and you'll get a pretty accurate answer. So those kinds of categories of misinformation, I think, are being corrected by the platforms, having nothing to do with government, and that is good. If they just mean, well, we disagree on whatever the thing is, well, that's not getting corrected because there's got to be room for debate.
Well, we have a bad example of when it was really implemented, and that was around COVID. A lot of the fact checks that automatically came up were people saying things that we weren't 100% sure about, and automatically said, this information is, we saw the things that popped up on Instagram, those little alerts that said.
Yeah, that was Facebook. So that was not community driven. That was independent.
So I said we have a bad example of it, but I do think when people are posting leisurely and saying something that's even in opinion just wholly incorrect, like just not true, like this is completely inaccurate, the number of people that were killed. This is completely inaccurate. And these are people with good who decides that? What do you mean? The death toll actually is reported. There's actual real numbers. What I mean, like it's your opinion.
But it's reported by people, and then it can be corrected, and then it can be like.
No, come on, Robbie. You have to have some. I'm not talking about
you
somebody
understand
saying
that there's
if the sky is blue. No, we have to just acknowledge that some things are just wholly true.
What if I say it's cerulean and you say it's?
No, so that you can't. But it's not. It's certainly not red. So that's what I'm saying. That's just the lie, right? You're looking at it, and your opinion is that looks red to me. Well, you may be colorblind, and we should note that in the.
I'm saying these things are a little blurrier than I think than liberals sometimes claim. It's there's facts and there's opinion. Well, I don't.
Being the Wild Wild West, as we've tried out, is not that great, because then you have people who are truly riled up about things that are incorrect. People are really like angry enough to stop speaking to family, to go out and be incited in some way. And so all these things are not good when we are telling lies. And so we need to make sure that people understand what is being said is not the whole truth. I think there's some context around that, whether it's community driven or the leaders of the company or a combination of both is a good thing. Okay. But I don't think that anybody from another country should be suggesting in which ways we go about it, because I think he's particularly trying to make sure that people are not talking about his country in a certain way.
And he's allowed to suggest it, by the way. I'm not calling for him to be censored. I'm just saying he's wrong and I disagree with him, and that would be a bad idea. And also it's just unworkable because our government, the First Amendment protects speech, and we're not revising it, we're not undoing it. Lesser laws that try to get at that get struck down by courts left and right, because the Supreme Court has, to its credit, taken a maximal view of what is covered by free speech. And I think that's a good thing. It makes our country unique and awesome and powerful. Up next, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, not talking about awesome and powerful. He made a stunning announcement, however, this morning, or is going to make it. Stay tuned.